Welcome to the Supervision and Management Lesson in the Organizational Development Curriculum. This lesson takes approximately 45 minutes. As you go through the lesson, you should be prepared with a pen or pencil and a notebook or pad of paper that you can use to write down your thoughts or for any journal activities during the lesson. You may also be invited to access additional resources on the PATH portal or to take part in discussion forums with members of the organizational development courses and groups on the portal. There you can share your experiences, questions, and advice with other partners around the world. Now, let's get started.
Every day you, your colleagues, and employees work toward an important mission, and you work to make a real difference in the lives of your clients. However, for many organizations, the number of day-to-day tasks can be nearly overwhelming. Everyone is busy. Each person has a role, but that role may involve balancing many priorities or working in a very specific, detailed area. With so many priorities, tasks, and details to manage, it can be difficult to focus on the big picture. This is where supervision, from the lower levels up through top management, comes in. Hi, I'm Christy Rendall, Organizational Development Advisor with the Center for Victims of Torture. In this lesson, you will take a closer look at the practical role that supervision of employees plays in helping an organization achieve its mission. You will also hear about practical strategies you can use to create an environment of effective, supportive supervision.
After this lesson, you should be able to explain why supervision and clear supervisor procedures are important from an organizational development perspective. Describe the relationship between supervision and work climate. Identify the 3 dimensions of supportive supervision. Identify specific processes and tools supervisors can use to supervise effectively. Understand key considerations involved in setting policies and bringing on new supervisors. We will begin by reviewing the concept of supervision and how it relates to work climate. The purpose of supervision is to help ensure that the specific tactics, processes, and methods used in the work all serve the organization's mission. Unity around mission helps safeguard the health of the organization and ensure a positive client experience. It is important to note here that we are referring to the supervision and management of employees, as distinct from the clinical supervision process. In managerial supervision, the supervisor's role is to help communicate the greater vision and mission of the organization, and to help translate that mission into the day-to-day tactics of their employees' work. Supervision involves helping your employees understand how their jobs help the organization achieve its mission. Good supervision helps your organization's employees support good provider performance in their work with clients, meet clients' needs by delivering safe and quality services, and ultimately improve mental health status of the country and/or populations that you serve. Supervision is closely tied to the concept of work climate. Work climate is the general atmosphere employees experience in the workplace. Simply stated, work climate is what it feels like to work in a place. Whether yours is a positive or negative work climate can directly affect your organization's ability to fulfill its mission and serve clients effectively. Although many factors within an organization and outside the organization's control can affect work climate, supervision and management are the most important factors. So, what does this look like? In a positive work environment, both managers and staff are motivated. They understand and are committed to the mission of the organization, and they work energetically to carry it out. Staff performance levels are generally high. They show up, take responsibility, and follow through. Staff members are more likely to give extra effort and even go beyond the job expectations. They are more willing and able to address challenges and to take appropriate risks necessary to innovate or do things better. They are also more likely to be able to cope with the stresses of their work and to resolve conflicts. All of this adds up to better employee performance, better employee retention, and a more effective workplace. By contrast, in a negative work climate, managers and staff are unmotivated. They are more likely to miss work, to fail to reach performance targets, or even to offend clients. They may be unclear about the mission of the organization or not understand how their own work relates to that mission. They may become apathetic about their work or become resistant to change, opposing new ideas and processes. In such environments, communication is poor, staff may be distrustful of management and each other, and there are interpersonal conflicts. Ultimately, in a negative work climate, employee retention becomes a problem, leading to monetary costs for hiring and training, relationship costs, and the loss of intellectual capital and organizational knowledge. Remember, there are 3 key dimensions that affect work climate and motivation. These dimensions are clarity, support, and challenge. When a work climate is high on the clarity dimension, it means that each member of the work group understands his or her role and responsibilities within the big picture. The individual understands what I have to do and why, and perceives his or her role as aligned with the purpose of their own work and organization as a whole. They know the types of clients the organization serves and are aware of the needs of those clients. They also have clear performance standards and understand the consequences of failing to achieve those standards. Support means that members of the work group feel that they have the resources and backing that they need to do their work and achieve standards and goals. These may be physical resources such as supplies, equipment, staff, and budget, but also include emotional resources such as an atmosphere of trust, mutual support, and recognition. Members feel their capabilities are acknowledged and that they have the opportunity to participate in decisions that affect their work. Finally, being high on the challenge dimension means that group members feel they have opportunities to stretch, to take on challenges with reasonable risks, and find new ways of doing things. In such a climate, staff members feel a sense of pride and a commitment to shared goals and purposes. They feel they are trusted. They are willing to take responsibility, learn from mistakes, develop their skills, and take on different activities or new processes as needed. Given that so much of the tone and basis of work climate depends on the management and supervisors, it is very important that supervisors and those who create supervision policies keep these 3 dimensions in mind: leadership, management, and supervisory practices that provide clarity, support, and challenge contribute to a positive work climate and, as a result, can lead to a more effective workplace. How do these dimensions apply to real-life situations and real employee concerns? Let us consider some of the most common questions and concerns among staff across all industries and locations.
Am I being treated fairly?
A major question in employee motivation is perception of fairness. This is especially important regarding salary and compensation. Perceptions of fairness also relate to the day-to-day application of personnel policies and the distribution of tasks and responsibilities. When there is clarity and transparency around roles, policies, and management procedures, employees are more likely to feel they are being treated fairly in comparison with other employees. The support dimension also plays a role in perception of fairness. When they see the organization provide consistent support for and recognition of staff, employees are more likely to feel fairly treated. How an employee answers the question, "Am I being treated fairly?" is a good indicator of the trust level between the employee and management. Employees who feel fairly treated and feel a good level of trust in management are more likely to have desirable attitudes with respect to the challenge dimension. They are likely to feel more committed to the organization and be willing to give extra effort.
What am I supposed to do?
People want to know exactly what is expected of them in their work. In many cases, job descriptions are not clear. Supervisors have not specified their expectations, or employees and supervisors hired for specific jobs are asked to perform other duties. Clarity can help ensure employees are working on the right things and understand the priorities. As we'll discuss later in this lesson, publishing key policies, procedures, and job descriptions is important to providing that clarity.
How well am I doing my job?
Employees need ongoing feedback about their job performance. Anxiety about performance and expectations can directly affect an employee's motivation and productivity. When employees feel they have clarity and support in this area, they are more able to face challenges. Positive feedback encourages more dedication, and constructive feedback encourages improvement.
Does my work matter to the organization?
When employees feel that their work is meaningful to the organization and important to the people they serve, they work more productively. For many people, simply having skills and performing well is not sufficient motivation if the result does not contribute to the success of the organization. Again, when supervisors ensure that employees have clarity and understand how their work matters in the larger context, and when employees feel they are trusted or challenged to take on new opportunities or try new things, they are more likely to be motivated and seek ways to improve. Work with torture and trauma survivors can be mentally and emotionally taxing, even for employees who have limited direct contact with your clients. The gravity and importance of the work and the challenges of providing those services with limited funding or outside support may be felt by employees at all levels. This kind of job stress can affect employees' individual work, the overall work climate of the organization, and ultimately the quality of service the clients receive. Supportive supervision can help treatment centers improve and maintain the quality of services they provide by focusing on supporting staff needs for management support, logistics, and job-specific training and continuing education. Supportive supervision does not neglect performance. It uses a practical system of objective measures to foster improvements in procedures, personal interactions, and management of the center. In this approach, leaders and supervisors recognize their roles and responsibilities in creating conditions that allow staff to do their jobs effectively. Supportive supervision helps build relationships between supervisors and staff that include mutual feedback, support, and respect. This form of supervision provides the opportunity to evaluate job performance and to encourage the employee's professional development. A supportive supervision system guides supervisors in planning, directing, and managing the performance of their employees. The system supports employees in the careful planning and implementation of their designated work in order to achieve the organization's mission. Supportive supervision benefits staff, supervisors, and organizational leadership. Supervised staff find this objective process motivating because it helps them identify and address the highest priority problems. They know what is expected of them, know when they have to meet those expectations, and they feel valued for their contributions. Supervisors, use short checklists to help them provide guidance on the technical aspects of services which, when combined with a client-centered outlook, results in high-quality care. Supervisory tactics are regular, reliable, and help ensure teams and individuals organize their work. Organizational leaders find that supportive supervision helps ensure a healthy, productive work environment in which staff are motivated, understand their roles, and are working toward the organization's mission. In a supportive supervision system, each level has a role in making the system work. Let us take a closer look at the roles and expectations that contribute to supportive supervision at the organizational leadership, supervisor, and staff levels. At the organizational level, leaders value and support supervision within the organization. They recognize that supervision can help staff work more effectively and efficiently to serve client populations. Leadership demonstrates this value and support by providing appropriate training for supervisors and by supporting supervisors with the tools and authority they need to do their jobs effectively. On a practical level, this means clearly defining levels of authority and interaction in the organization to enable supervisors. This also means allocating adequate financial and human resources for planning and for implementing and evaluating supervision. Leadership also establishes and supports clear protocols, procedures, and policies to help supervisors focus their work and that of their supervisees on the key organizational priorities. This means defining and communicating staff functions throughout the organization and documenting technical and administrative procedures or protocols, such as job descriptions, supervision training, supervision policy manual, new employee orientation, and ongoing staff meetings. It also means providing a clear procedure for joint work planning and a clear performance review process. At the supervisory level, supervisors try to prevent potentially stressful or problematic situations from developing. They look to address issues that may impinge on the staff's logistic and emotional abilities to perform their jobs effectively. Supervisors provide encouragement and help workers cope with potentially stressful situations that do arise. They are available and approachable, and they empower their staffs by communicating confidence in the workers' abilities. Supervisors also help ensure that procedures, policies, and protocols are communicated. That is to say, that workers understand their roles, and they provide technical guidance with respect to work tactics and procedures. Supervisors also play an important role in the performance evaluation processes, again, to help ensure that workers understand their expectations and have the opportunities to meet those expectations. They then evaluate the employees in a clearly communicated, fair, and reliable way. Finally, supervisors look out for their own training and ongoing learning as supervisors, and they advocate for necessary internal training that will help their staff do their jobs effectively. At the staff level, employees understand the role of the supervisor and supervisory process, and understand how supervision can benefit the staff and the organization as a whole. They respect the roles and protocols and respect the supervisor's authority. They don't seek to go over the supervisor's head. Employees make sure that they understand clearly the objectives of their own job descriptions and policies that affect their work, and they communicate with their supervisors. So, now that we have discussed what supportive supervision is, the benefits of supportive supervision, and the roles leadership, supervisors, and staff play in the process, what are some attributes or characteristics of supportive supervision? Here we will show you a list of several attributes. For each one, ask yourself, does this fit with the idea of supportive supervision? Click the pause button at the bottom of the player if you'd like more time. The first, third, fourth, and sixth items on the list are attributes that fit with supportive supervision. Supportive supervision is comprehensive, thorough. It goes beyond just administrative supervision tasks such as ensuring basic requirements are met or paperwork completed. Supportive supervision also includes a focus on giving employees opportunities and support to proactively improve and close gaps. It does not mean reactively looking for their mistakes, being critical, and punishing performance or knowledge gaps. Overall, it focuses on work processes and support systems to ensure an environment where staff can succeed and support the organization's mission, rather than solely focusing on the tasks and behaviors of individual employees. Finally, supportive supervision is continuous, an ongoing two-way relationship between the supervisor and the person being supervised. So, as leaders and supervisors, how do we apply the concepts of supportive supervision in the real world? How do we ensure that we're providing good supervision? What concepts, tools, and processes can help us achieve this? First, it is important to recognize that the relationship between a supervisor and a staff member is a two-way street. This means the relationship should be built on mutual respect, support, and feedback, and the roles should be aligned around common goals. Whether you supervise clinical staff and professionals, administrative staff, or even if you are an organizational leader who supervises other supervisors and managers, your employees are professionals who should be treated with respect for their knowledge, skills, and roles in the organization. However, they still need support and guidance. As a supervisor, you provide this through clear communications, procedures, and measures, as well as by supporting the employee's development in the job. For their part, staff support this relationship by taking responsibility for their own work and for communicating their needs. In this relationship, it is the role of the supervisor to help the employee find opportunities to develop competencies they need for the job or their career within the organization, and to help them pursue that development whenever possible. Identify performance gaps and facilitate opportunities for the employee to improve in the areas needed to bridge that gap. Ensure that the employee's performance meets your and your organization or project's standards. Be sure that the employee is clear about your expectations and how their performance will be measured. Provide timely and specific feedback on employee performance, basing feedback on mutually agreed upon expectations. Accordingly, the employee's role is to inform the supervisor of competencies they know they need to develop. Communicate about the skills and support they need to improve competencies to improve performance. Be sure that they understand the performance standards, and be sure they clearly understand the supervisor's expectations, and then proactively seek clarification if the standards and expectations are not clear. And finally, seek feedback from their supervisors about their performance. The ability to delegate work tasks and responsibilities is essential to good supervision and management. Without it, leaders and supervisors simply become overextended bottlenecks in the workflow, and staff miss out on opportunities to grow in their jobs. Used effectively, delegation can benefit both the supervisor or leader and the subordinate. For the leader or supervisor, delegating work can help the managers or supervisors focus on their broader responsibilities and higher priority work, and to manage their own time more effectively. From the subordinate's perspective, effective delegation can provide challenge, motivation, and opportunities to learn and grow in the job. It can also help them feel valued for their work, all of which enhances the work climate and builds their commitment. So how does this work? It is important to match the tasks and level of responsibility to the ability, availability, and level of the employee. As a part of building and maintaining a healthy supervisor-employee relationship, the delegation process and communication should flow both ways. It is important for the supervisor to communicate expectations and needs clearly, and to encourage the employee to communicate his or her own needs and circumstances regarding the delegated work. This means tell and ask. Tell the employee the result you want. Specifically, what do you need to see from the employee? Also, be clear about how much latitude or authority the individual has in terms of how to do the task or make decisions. The task and level of responsibility or authority needs to be appropriate to the person to avoid undue risk. However, when an employee has more authority to make decisions or influence the process, less time is spent in approvals and handoffs, and results come more quickly. Why it matters. Understanding the purpose and goals of the delegated work and how they fit into the bigger picture helps reinforce the idea that we're working toward a common goal, and helps motivate the employee by ensuring he or she understands how the work is important. The time frame or deadline. This helps the employee understand the level of urgency and plan accordingly for his or her workload. It also helps the supervisor set expectations and receive timely results. How, and how frequently, you want to be updated. Again, this relates to communicating what specifically you need and what authority the employee has with respect to the work. It helps clearly set expectations about the communication you will need. To help the employee be successful, you should also ask the employee, what obstacles does he or she anticipate? Consider what might keep the employee from achieving the result you want in the time you require. And is there anything that you can do to help eliminate or reduce those obstacles? What resources will the employee need? What information, physical resources, people, or other resources are necessary? And how can you help ensure the employee has access to those resources? How does this task fit with his or her other priorities? This can help you both manage the employee's workload. How confident is the employee that he or she will be able to complete the task on time? This provides a reality check for the deadline. If the deadline is unrealistic, given the work involved, the resources available, and the individual's other work priorities, asking this will help you identify the problem. Then, you can determine whether the deadline can be changed or if other responsibilities can be shifted away from the employee for a time to accommodate this task deadline. Think now about delegation and consider, what are effective techniques for delegating tasks and responsibilities? What does effective delegation sound like in practical terms? Listen to the following conversation between Phil, a staff member, and his supervisor, Ada.
Hi, Phil. I need you to get me some recent numbers and a report on new clients. Get started on that right away, okay? Thanks. Goodbye.
What? Okay.
So, how well did the supervisor do in delegating to Phil? What should she have done differently? If you would like more time to discuss or write down your thoughts, click the pause button at the bottom of the player. The supervisor did not do a good job delegating in this situation. She was not specific about what her expectations were or why she needed this work. She failed to communicate a deadline and how much authority she was giving Phil on this task. Also, she did not give Phil an opportunity to ask questions or to communicate about his workload. Now, let's listen to a more successful attempt.
Hi, Phil. I need you to put together a report for me on new client intake. The management team is working on staffing recommendations for the upcoming year, and we need to know, during the last 6 months at both locations, how many new clients have we accepted, the caseload for each therapist, and how many potential clients are still on the waiting list.
No problem. Do you want it broken down by location and month, or just the overall totals?
That's a good question. Thanks for asking. I would like totals for the last 6 months, total overall and broken down by location. But please make a note if there are any unusual trends or outliers that you see. Also, based on what you find, I would like your recommendations about staffing at this location. Assuming we serve the same level of ongoing and new clients next year as we have this year, I'd like to know, do you think we can get the job done with the current staff? Or if current staff can do it but will need additional training or changing of some responsibilities? The management team and I will make the final decision, but I know you have a good understanding of our current staff capabilities and processes at this location. Do you have other questions?
No, I understand what you're asking me to do.
Great. I would like to see a draft of the report on Monday so that I can give you my feedback and have you send it out to the rest of the management team before our Thursday meeting. Is that timeline realistic? Will this work with the other priorities you have this week?
Well, I am a little busy working on a presentation for college, too. The deadline for that is next Thursday, but I think I should be able to do both.
Tell me, what do you think you'd need to get this done? Are there any obstacles that you think might get in the way for you?
I think the one possible obstacle is that I'm not very familiar with the record system yet, so getting the numbers might take more time. If Yana could work with me for an hour this week, that would help very much. She's much more familiar with the system and could help me correctly pull the information I need. It would save a lot of time.
Yes, Yana should be able to help you with that. I will let her know that you will be calling her, and that she can prioritize helping you ahead of some of the other things I have her working on this week. I also have a meeting with Khalid this afternoon, so I'll let him know I asked you to work on this as well. Please let me know right away if you have any problems.
Thank you, I will.
This time, the supervisor did a better job communicating with Phil. She was specific about what information she needed, why she needed it, and when she needed it. She described Phil's level of authority on this task, informing him that she wanted his recommendation, but that the final decision would be made by the management team. She also had a two-way conversation with Phil this time. She gave him the opportunity to ask clarifying questions, discuss how the task fit with his workload, and what resources he would need to make the deadline. The conversation was respectful, clear, and cooperative. For more information on types of delegation and effective delegation procedures, please see the resources at the end of this lesson. Supervisory meetings are another important tool for supervision and management. Regular, ongoing meetings help build important relationships between supervisors and the people they supervise. These meetings facilitate communication between roles, clarify day-to-day priorities and expectations, and provide ongoing feedback for employees to help them do their jobs effectively. This can lead to better clarity and alignment in expectations and help supervisors and staff head off developing issues or concerns before they become major problems. A supervisory meeting is not always a formal event. Ongoing supervision meetings may be more informal check-ins, in person, by telephone, or online. In these ongoing meetings, the supervisor and staff member discuss the work, resolve issues, and identify areas where the employee needs support. This type of meeting should happen at least once per month with each employee. In addition, formal planning and review meetings should be scheduled a few times throughout the year. Generally, you should plan for about 3 formal supervision visits or meetings each year. In the first meeting, the supervisor and the supervisee develop the individual's work plan for the coming year and agree on performance standards. At the second meeting, midway through the year, Supervisor and supervisee meet to assess progress so far on the overall work plan and to make adjustments if necessary. In the third formal meeting, they jointly evaluate the individual's performance. Each of these formal supervision visits or meetings involves 3 phases: preparing for the meeting, conducting the meeting, and follow-up between the supervisor and the individual after the meeting. The preparation for a supervision meeting or visit is very important. It also involves steps for both the supervisor and the supervisee. The supervisor is generally the person who will initiate the meeting process and who will be responsible for conducting the meeting. To prepare for the meeting, the supervisor should schedule the meeting for a time that is convenient for both you and the employee. Send the employee a written notification. In this email or notification, give the time and date of the meeting and remind the employee of the steps he or she should take to prepare for the meeting. Review the notes and action plan from the previous supervision meeting or visit to refresh your memory about what you have discussed. Review the employee's current job description. Review the employee's performance during the designated period. Identify highlights from the period and think about ideas for future improvement or possible training needs. Plan an agenda for the meeting. This might include identifying core tasks in the employee's work, especially any tasks that are new, difficult, or critical to success, identifying other tasks or responsibilities to be discussed, or identifying and discussing what information or data should be used to assess performance and how it will be collected. It is also important that the employee be properly prepared for the supervision meeting or visit. Again, the supervisor should send the employee a written notification well enough in advance of the meeting to allow the employee time to prepare. In that notification, the supervisor should remind the employee of what he or she should do to prepare. Key steps employees should take to prepare for these meetings include: review any notes and expectations laid out in previous supervision meetings and in your current work plan and job description. Review your past performance in order to have a base for discussion. Prepare questions or concerns that you would like to discuss. And develop a plan to enhance your current work and any possible new tasks that may be included over the next period. The next phase is the meeting itself. Begin with a greeting. Be cordial, greet the employee, and briefly reiterate the agenda for the meeting. Next, review the actual work and how it is being carried out. This should be a two-way conversation between the supervisor and the employee. Both should share their observations and thoughts. Then, discuss future plans. Use this time to identify and address support needs, training needs, and potential future challenges. Finally, as you prepare to end the meeting, review the actions identified for both the employee and the supervisor. Be careful to avoid making promises that cannot be fulfilled. Schedule the next meeting or visit. And document the meeting and the agreements reached between the supervisor and the employee, and share that documentation with the employee. Between visits or formal supervision meetings, it is important to have ongoing follow-up and communication between the supervisor and staff member. Some examples of follow-up activities include ongoing, regularly scheduled informal check-ins, ongoing indirect supervision, such as reviewing documents produced by the employee or reviewing data collection together as a team. Follow up on any issues that were discussed, for example, requests, needs, or actions identified in the meeting, or addressing questions that arise. Scheduling reminders about the next supervision visit or formal meeting. In the course of this meeting, the supervisor will provide feedback on the staff member's work, and the employee may give feedback as well. Feedback can be challenging both to give and to receive. Therefore, it helps to prepare your thoughts about the feedback you will give in advance of the meeting. Here are some tips to keep in mind when preparing and delivering feedback. Be clear about what you want to say. Plan what you will say before you meet. Emphasize the positive. With constructive feedback, you help the person understand what needs to be done rather than just identifying a problem. Always look for areas of improvement rather than concentrating on what went wrong in the past. Be specific. Give specific examples and be clear with language, clarifying what you mean by words like it, this, or that. Focus on behavior rather than the person. Refer to behaviors that realistically can be changed. Be descriptive rather than evaluative. Emphasize what you see and hear. Describe your own observations without making judgments, and allow that to guide the person to make his or her own assessment. Own the feedback. Use I statements, such as I observed or I wonder. Avoid generalizations. This means avoid exclusionary or exaggerated words like all, never, or always. Be specific. Concentrate on particular points. It is easier for someone to react or make changes based on a specific observation and statement than broad, generalized statements. Be careful with advice. Often the best way to help is to help the person understand the nature of the issue, how it has developed, and strategies they can use to identify actions that they can take to address the issue. Encourage self-evaluation. People are more willing to accept criticism when they recognize their own strengths and weaknesses. Start by encouraging staff to appraise themselves and then build on their own insights. Indicate what can and should be done. Make your feedback practical so the person can act on it. This means discuss specific ways the person can improve. Simply saying that a behavior was good or bad gives the employee no direction for improvement, nor sense that he or she has any control over the outcome. Build on what people want. Try to give feedback about areas where the employee asks for feedback. If you must give feedback that was not requested to bring something to an employee's attention, begin by saying that you are going to give feedback. Find the right time and place. Take time to explain things to the employee properly. This allows the employee an opportunity to clarify and discuss the matter with you. Avoid giving performance feedback in public or in rushed circumstances. In addition to the concepts and processes we've discussed, there are several tools that can help support an environment of supportive supervision. Maybe you are already using tools like these. Maybe you have other regulations and tools that you use, or maybe you are thinking about developing some of these for your own organization. Either way, think of these as possible tools that you and your organization can use to help ensure clarity, support, and challenge for executives, supervisors, and staff alike. Some of these tools include a defined mission and at least elements of an organizational business plan that are shared across the organization. This helps staff understand the larger, unifying goals and purpose behind their work. A supervisor manual or handbook that describes the supervisory approach, procedures, and processes that supervisors need to do their jobs. It should also outline what is expected of supervisors. Ongoing training or learning opportunities relevant to job functions for supervisors and staff.
an employee handbook that outlines policies and procedures for all employees, a documented performance appraisal process. This should be a collaborative, planned effort between each supervisor and staff member. This process helps ensure that all employees have clear performance expectations, that they plan their work to meet those expectations, and that they receive regular and useful feedback about their performance. A defined salary policy to help ensure fairness and relative transparency. Job descriptions to help ensure each employee understands his or her role and job expectations. These tools help ensure that leadership, supervisor, and staff are on the same page. That is, that they share an understanding of their goals and roles. Other lessons may cover some of these tools in more detail.
In summary, whether an organization has a positive or negative work climate can directly affect the health of the organization. Though there are other factors, supervision and management are the most important factors that influence work climate. Supportive supervision focuses on supporting staff needs for management support, logistics, and ongoing training and education. At the same time, it uses objective, practical measures to measure performance and foster improvements. Supportive supervision benefits staff, supervisors, and organizational leaders, and it helps ensure everyone is working effectively toward the organization's mission. The 3 dimensions of supportive supervision are clarity, support, and challenge. The supervisor-employee relationship should be built on mutual respect, support, and feedback, and should be aligned around common goals. Effective delegation is key. Effective delegation involves telling the employee specifically what is needed and the level of authority or initiative he or she should take. It also involves asking the employee for feedback about their own time and ability to complete the work and what they need from you or others to complete the task. Formal supervisory meetings should take place about 3 times a year, with more frequent informal meetings or check-ins. A formal supervisory meeting requires 3 steps: preparation, the meeting itself, and follow-up. There are a variety of tools that support effective supervision and that can help new supervisors acclimate to the organization or role. Some of these are Supervisor Manual or Handbook, an Employee Handbook, ongoing training, a documented performance appraisal process, clear job descriptions, and a defined salary policy.